All right. Welcome back to the BG Perform podcast. Joined here today by my co-host, Coach Jerry Hayes.
Oh,
Jerry,
yo,
how's
that's me.
it
That's
been?
crazy. Dude, week's been good, just getting into a groove this week, trying to get shit done. Training's been good.
Let's go.
That's pretty
Let's
much it. It's
let's go.
Tuesday.
Just just that.
Just that. A lot of
Uh,
studying.
I've been watching a lot of Kill Tony, and whenever somebody bombs, when somebody just does like a horrible Kill Tony. If you never heard of Kill Tony, so this is a traveling comedy show, and essentially the guy has like a bunch of comedians on, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but he just pulls them their name from a bucket and he brings them on stage. Like, and some of them never done comedy before, some of them have, but whenever they bomb, he's like, "All right, can you tell me if there's anything interesting about yourself other than this failed comedy attempt so anybody could like you at the end of this?" And he just absolutely roasts it. But yeah, so Kill Tony is it's a funny comedian show, and that just reminded me of that. So today we're going to be talking about sustainability in fitness. All right, we're going to be talking about why it's so important to be sustainable early on in your fitness career and how it translates to success long term. Anything to add to that before we start?
No, let's jump into it, man.
All right, give me a 3 second countdown
Five, four,
or
two.
a 5 second countdown.
Those
Go.
were 3 separate seconds.
All right. So when we talk about sustainability in fitness, one of the biggest things that is really important in this is being smart because there's so much more to fitness long term, right? And there's so much more to it than winning a week or winning a day, right? Obviously, long term, as we start to play out what a program looks like, winning a day, winning a week, winning a month, that stuff starts to compound on itself long term in the program. But when we look at the long-term importance of sustainability in fitness and really in any aspect of life, but obviously we're going to try to keep this fitness related. Sustainability helps us kind of remove any barriers early on, right? Remove any barriers that might get in the way long term. And I think with clients that we have long term, we want to look at a couple things. We want to look at how or what are their goals, right? Where are they trying to go, and how big of a change or how big of a adaptation, I guess, are they looking to make? And we want to make sure that everything that we do early on is long term set towards that, right? But in the short term, we may not be doing what it's going to look like in long term. And this is something I explain to every client. I the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because I started with another client this past week and I had this conversation with them. One of the things I always ask my clients when they work with me is I don't ask for an upfront payment of like 3 to 6 months, but I always ask that they commit to me mentally for at least 3 months, right? Because I think what happens, and one of the things that sucks about the fitness industry is there's a lot of these like short-term little things, right? There's a 4 week program or a 6 week thing, and it's very jumpy, right? And if we look at the rest of the world too, there's a lot of switching, whether it comes with dating apps and things like that, where it's just like, all right, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, and no one really kind of settles down and focuses in on one thing. Even something I thought about last week with this was I was watching NFL Red Zone because it's football season, and Red Zone is a station on. Oh, I was illegally streaming Red Zone. But anyways,
Yeah, let's say that on the podcast. That's a good idea.
but anyways, so Red Zone is on NFL Network, which is something that's part of the NFL ticket. But anyways, so when you watch that, it basically jumps from touchdown to touchdown, right? And you're just seeing all the big plays, all the big plays, all the big plays, and you're not seeing the build up to those plays, right? You're not watching the end game in its entirety. And I got hooked onto that about a couple years ago when I started watching football. And I've kind of really kind of dwindled, or not dwindled, but like brought my way back into actually sitting down and watching a full game from start to finish, because I think we forget how much you can actually get out of things when you go from start to finish and not just look for these big points, right? And I think what a lot of people do, and especially myself, and early on in my career of trying to, or in my life of trying to lose weight, was I would just so worried about the outcome. I was just trying to go 110% on day one, right? And how many people between us have we trained at this point, right? And how many of them have we seen, if we took like a case study of the ones that took their time and actually found success, and the one that's tried to rush through the first 6 to 8 weeks and just, fell off a cliff, right? And I think that what happens here is we get caught up in these small, short-term things of, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds in 6 weeks. I want to, whatever these absurd goals are. When in reality, there's so many things that get in the way of reaching a goal, right? And oftentimes, more than not, it has nothing to do with the actual like training. It has more to do with everything else in between. And when we start slow, we're able to kind of see these things and actually attack them, right? And if you look at this from, you know, building a system, if you build this complex system that you have no understanding of, when something goes wrong, where do you start, right? That's when things become very difficult. What becomes very simple is when you build a system step by step and you understand each step, so that when something goes wrong, you understand, okay, well, I'm at step 6. Let me, what is going wrong, right? Let me go back to step 4, then come back up to step 6. And you kind of build this cycle of like, where you're at and what you can fix and how you can fix it, right? So I think sustainability starts at having a process of understanding, this is going to take time, right? And I think the number one thing when you commit to something like this is literally that commitment of like, this is going to take time. And I think, you and I both had this in different directions. One, because when I lost a bunch of weight, I, I, I in a way rushed even when I lost the weight, right? But I think I fell in love with what I was doing. So it kind of, because like when I look back at what I did, I don't know if I would ever do it again the way that I did it, but I did it, right? And I think certainly up to a point, we have to kind of be realistic with like, if you can just get it done, sometimes that's better than not getting it done. You know what I mean? But I think more often than not, if we can be sustainable, like I wasn't, right? And I realized I wasn't. And what I did was, when I initially lost all that weight, I found sustainable ways to keep it off, right? Because I was like, all right, I just did all this work. I did it in a maybe unsustainable way looking back, but now I want to keep this off. What are the ways that I can do it, right? And I want you to talk about it, because I think some people misunderstand how hard it is to gain weight for people who
Mhm.
struggle with gaining weight, and how tedious and sustainable and consistent you need to be. Because if you're not, like, I think for the most part, losing weight, if we're honest, is you can say it's difficult to lose weight, which it is, but it really just comes down to a discipline thing, right? And everybody can lose weight if they were disciplined enough to lose weight. But I think with some people, it's just very hard to gain weight, right? And obviously, you can be disciplined, and I can say the same thing, but I really believe it's so much harder on that end, trying to put on like, not, or put on actual body mass. You know what I mean? Like lean body mass.
Yeah.
It takes so much longer. Like, you're not going to see a an equivalent transformation of someone losing weight in 6 months to someone putting on size in 6 months, right? And I think that, your perspective of this is going to be crucial for people listening, and how, early on when you started the journey, how really consistent, or being sustainable and consistent, was important, and what roadblocks those kind of fixed for you long term.
Yeah. I mean, so there are a couple different points to make on that. So, like one, gaining weight, like even from my favorite coaches in the industry, there are some who say like everybody has the ability to gain weight, which is like, yeah. And it's like if you're not gaining weight, you're doing something wrong. And like I just have to, those are coming from coaches who are massive. And it's just like, okay, when was the last time you were really, really thin and had to like put on weight? Um, and one thing that I always think about is when I like during the pandemic, all the gyms shut down. I wasn't working because the gyms shut down, and then I moved to Colorado, and within less than a year, I lost 30 pounds of mass. I went from 170 to 139, which is fucking freaky skinny for me at 5'11. Um, so the first when I finally like got back into the gym, I had money for a membership and I was working at a gym. Um, the first 15 pounds came on pretty quick. I'll say first 10 to 15 because it started to slow a little bit, but it came on really quick because it's just what your body does. It bounces back. Um, but that got me from 139 to like 155. But I wanted to get back to 170. And that's when it started to slow down. So within like, I think it was like 3 or 4 months. And I have the papers somewhere so I could actually check. But the first like 3 or 4 months, I gained like the 10 to 15 pounds. And I was like, damn, okay, here we go. And then it started to plateau. And I was like, oh man, I remember this. Um, it's just you have to eat and eat and eat. And as far as like putting on mass goes, like as someone that small, it doesn't make sense that we have to eat that much, but we do. And as far as consistency, I know I started to become really impatient with myself. And I know as a coach, like I know that I've had this conversation with the clients, like, don't worry, it'll come. Just gonna take time, be consistent. And that's what I had to do. But then I started pushing it a little too hard. I added in an extra day instead of keeping the rest. And looking back, I see what happened was like literally what I'm studying right now is adrenal fatigue. Um, I went through it and immediately started feeling like super drained. I felt like I was getting injured. I wasn't letting myself rest and recover properly. Um, and it can become really frustrating because if you start to do that and you don't see the progress that you know you want to see, you think that it's not working, but it's still happening. It's just slow. And because it's a slow burn, we have the red zone mindset where we're just like, I want to see the touchdown. I want to see the touchdown. I don't want
Mm.
to see all these plays, these missed passes, and these running plays that give you 2 yards. I want to see the fucking full sprint touchdown. Um, and like you said, just same as losing weight, like we want to get there quick, but if it's gonna happen and it's gonna stay, and you want the true result, it's gonna take time.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of good points you made, but I think one of the biggest things in that is the fact that when you look long term at results, right? Fitness especially, there's so many things that get in the way of it. And early on, if you're slow and methodical and you hammer those things correctly, when you hit that 3 month mark, you're not going to struggle with it, right? And I think early on, when you get into a program, right, there's a few things you have to understand. Language, you have to understand the layout, movement selection, you have to understand the environment you're in, right? And you have to learn all these things. If you jump into a program and expect 6 weeks of like quick results, you can get like, and I want to preface this by saying you can do that, right? Like you can get 6 weeks of results very fast, but long term, right? You have to have these beginning pillars that are going to get you from point A to point B and then from B to C. Because without that, once you get into the dog days of it, right? The hard sessions, the times where after those first 6 weeks, right? Because realistically, one of the cool things about fitness, and especially if you're new to fitness, there's a legit thing called newbie gains, right? And you legitimately have almost superpowers in the gym regarding changes and adaptations and increases in strength and increases in skill, right? Because your body's so new to some of this stuff, when you feed it opportunities to grow, it grows at a very, very rapid rate, right? And this is super important to understand because those usually aren't the hardest points. That's when it's easiest, right? And
Mhm.
that's when it's simple. That's when it's fun. It's like every time I come into the gym, my squat's going up 10 pounds. Every time I step into the gym, my snatch is feeling better. I remember in CrossFit, this was something for me, was like I was already an athletic person, but I was just implementing these movement patterns, the clean, the squat, the kipping pull up, muscle ups, all the technical aspects that go along with CrossFit. And I was learning them at such a rapid rate. And every time I went in, my snatch would go from like 95 to 115 to 135 to 155. And eventually I hit a sticking point of like 205 and I never got past it. Like I was just like, that was the most I ever lifted for the squat. I don't know if I'm ever going to come close to that again because I haven't done it in forever. Part of me feels like after I do this triathlon, I'm going to get back into that type of training because I do miss it. But anyways, this is the type of thing as a newbie, you know, y- there's so much change and adaptation you get in such a short time, and that's not real, right? And it's such a hard thing for people to see because they get all these gains early on, they get all this change, all this adaptation, all this stuff, and then falls off a cliff, right? Because
Hmm.
literally what this graph looks like, it goes change, adaptation, skill, 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 yes, change, 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 boom, and just goes like this,
Yeah.
right?
It's a
But
roller
what
coaster
happens
without
is
the drop off. It's just you just
exactly.
end up plateauing.
It's like the worst. Actually, yeah, that's like the worst roller coaster on the
It's like,
planet.
oh, here we
Like,
go.
oh
Fuck.
my
We're
god, oh
just
my god, oh
okay.
my
We're
god, oh my god, flat. Just straight, just a straight
I'm
line.
all right. Let's just TM. It's gonna be called the plateau coaster, and we're just going to have people go up and get really fucking excited, and it looks like there's a giant drop, and then they're just gonna coast for like a mile, and then it's gonna
But
slowly descend through.
it's actually so depressing if you think about that. That's like the worst roller coaster ride on the planet. Fitness is the worst roller coaster ride on the planet. So
No
essentially,
one's
what
gonna want to
happens
take it
here
because
is,
it's that good.
yeah, essentially, it's just this constant climb. You're like, oh my God, this is gonna be insane. This is gonna be the sickest thing on earth, sickest thing on earth, and then you're just flat. And the only thing you'll see is every once in a while is another little raise for the
It's
next
like, oh,
20
is this it?
years.
Oh.
Little raise for the next 20 years of your life.
And congratulations, nobody wants to lift anymore. We did it,
Exactly.
Brandon. That's great.
So, besides thinking of it in that way, because that is a very nihilistic way of thinking about
Yeah.
fitness, but it's it's true in a lot of ways that there is such a huge change and gain at the beginning that it's so hard, and if you don't have those pillars, you know, you're not going to be able to withstand that. And a lot of people see that initial change and they're like, okay, once it stops, they're like, I'm doing something wrong, right? And a lot of them aren't doing anything wrong, but the problem is a lot of people weren't doing anything right before that, right? They're just not doing things in the capacity that they need to be doing once things start to change. And this is where having a coach, like a real coach, or not even a real coach that has to be the main expression, but like someone in your corner that you can turn to and be like, all right, I'm at where training matters now, right? Because in that first year, you can really kind of get by with working out, right? And what I mean by working out is no real goals, no real outcome, just kind of having fun, trying different things, and you'll still see a lot of change, right? I used to say this all the time. Realistically, if you're out of shape and overweight or whatever, it doesn't matter what you do. You could shovel for 6 hours a day. As long as you're training and getting an adaptation, you're gonna see change, right? So I think with fitness, as you start to see this stuff, it's so important that sustainability comes into your head from such an early point. And really this comes down to the coach. This comes down to the people around you, setting you up for success in that, and not throwing you off, throwing you into the water without really understanding things. The way I explain it to my clients is month one, we're going to get to know each other. We're going to go through the language. We're going to understand the movement patterns. You're going to learn tempo. You're going to learn what weights you can do. You're going to kind of like play around and fail, play around and have some, have some fun with the movements, the stimulus, the soreness, that type of thing, right? Really learn this and feel it. Month two, we're going to start to dip our toes in the water, right? Maybe we'll sit on the edge, we'll kick our feet in, we'll let it get our legs wet a little bit. And then month three, I'm gonna say, all right, we're gonna stand right in the edge. I'm gonna push you in. Right. That's my goal. Is I'm just gonna throw you in, and then by
Just
then
fucking choke slam you.
RKO you into the
Yeah.
water. And then
Watch
from
out, watch out.
there, watch out, watch out, watch out. Oh! So from that point, when I throw you into the water, theoretically, those first 2 months should help us and help you understand what to do when you get in the water, right? Have you ever seen the early on in a baby's life when they throw them in the water and they just instinctually kind of figure out what they have to do, right?
They like roll on their back and just
Yeah.
have their face above the
Yeah.
water. Yeah.
Ideally, we do the same thing, except you know what you're actually doing and you can swim back to shore, right?
Hmm.
The whole point here is these first 2 months build sustainability, right? You're building the habits, you're building the things that could get in the way early on. And one of the things I always ask my clients when they first join is, what has stopped you from making a decision like this in the past, right? So, what has stopped you from either working with a trainer or working with someone in the past? And if so, what is it that stopped you, right? A lot of times it's financially, a lot of times it's commitment, time wise, price, usually it comes down to some financial thing. But for the people, and financially is a different story, right? If it's truly financial, then that's easy. It's just, we just got to find a way to make it work financially. But if it's anything else where it's commitment issues, it's decision making things, it's time, it's distance, whatever it is, that's when we have to start to kind of utilize these first 2 months to get rid of these barriers that might get in the way, right? And if you're a coach who trains people and you kind of struggle with this, ask those types of questions. See what stopped them in the past. See what they struggle with in life right now, because those are the things that, if anything, are going to get in the way from success long term inside of a program, right? And if you're a client and you're looking to really find success in a program, what are those things that have stopped you in the past, right? Do you go into a program thinking, "Oh, I need to find results in 3 or 4 weeks or else I'm out," right? Do you find yourself having commitment issues? Because a lot of people have commitment issues nowadays, whether it's, in general or just, in relationships or whatever. Do you find yourself struggling with distance? Do you find yourself struggling, whatever it might be? Just be honest with yourself, or be vulnerable enough to the person helping you that they can figure it out, right? Because some people, as I've done this enough that now when I sit down with somebody, they might not say the words, but I'm able to kind of piece together what it is that they're actually struggling with and give it back to them, right? And I think one of the things, I had a conversation last week with a potential person who may be joining the team, and they were talking, they were telling me blah blah blah, and I was like, all right, so I wrote some things down, but here's my summarization of what you said. I was like, basically, you're reaching a point where blah 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 and blah blah blah, and they were like, wow, that is literally what I was trying to say, and I didn't know the words on how to say it. And I was like, that's why I'm here, right? But it's one of those things where us as coaches, we've seen it before. We know that's why we're at the positions that we're in. That's why we're doing the things that we're doing. That's why I've dedicated my life to this, right? And I think when you trust someone and you're willing to just talk and let them listen, and again, this comes down to the coach on being able to listen as well, right? And to hear those things that they need to hear. But all of this really comes down to building sustainability within those things, right? And what I want to do is I want to try to give us some takeaways that the people listening today can do to build sustainability within either their program or their fitness in general, right? And when we talk about fitness, when we talk about sustainability in fitness or just your life in general, this is really just building in some pillars and frameworks in which you can think and act on, that no matter what, rain, shine, sickness, health, you can complete to a certain degree, right? For me, one of those sustainable things is steps, right? Steps each and every day. If we can set a number each and every day, like mine is 10,000, right? And I'm fucking pissed, bro. I I had a 53-day streak of 10K steps, and I had like 9,300 on Sunday, and I just forgot. Just fucking forgot.
Damn, bro, you blew it.
Yeah, I fucking blew it. I
Well,
was I was
fitness is
sitting
over
here.
for you. Hang up the
I woke up on Monday morning, like yesterday morning, and
Yeah.
I was like doing my journal, and I was like, fuck. I was like, oh my God, I definitely didn't hit 10,000 steps yesterday. I looked and I was like, no.
Dude, just get 10,700, and
Oh,
then you make
oh,
up
that's
for
not the
those
point. It
ones.
ruined the streak. It ruined the
Yeah, you
streak.
did.
Oh.
You fucked up, and
Anyways,
there's nothing you could do about it.
so yeah, I know. It really is nothing. But anyways, so having things like steps, having things like frameworks, having things like a schedule, having things that make sense for you. And when we really boil down sustainability, all it really means is what fits into your life, right? What fits into your life that no matter what you can do. And from there, what are you smiling about?
I'm just the fact that I was like, "There's nothing you could do about it." You were like, "That's it. Yeah, there's literally nothing I could do."
There's no,
I just, I just kept replaying in my head, and it was funny.
there literally is nothing. I don't know. I don't know what else I
I
could
don't
do.
know why your sadness there just made me laugh so hard, but I'm sorry. I'm a bad
No, it's
cousin.
okay. You just caught me off guard. I saw you kind of like half smirking, and I was like, all right, what did I what am I missing here? But when we think about
My bad.
sustainability and we boil it down to like its fundamental piece, it's literally just where am I at in my life and what can I fit in on a consistent basis. And I think that for you and me as coaches, right, having to deal with this on a daily basis, I've been so much more apparent, aware of it, right, and how apparent it is inside of this stuff because I've said I've said this for years, like give someone the best program, right? Talk about athletes. And this is why I made a post this morning about why training general general people, or normal people, helps you with training elite athletes, right? And I think it's because we oftentimes we forget how normal athletes are, right? And we forget how how much we can get out of normal people, right? And when we kind of find this happy medium where we find these people that, their lives don't revolve around health and fitness, right? Their lives revolve around other things, but they just want to be fit, right? A lot of them want it, they chase it, they work very hard, and sometimes they work harder than some of these athletes, to be honest. Like in regards to that, obviously the athletes are gifted and they're really good, and they've put in a lot of time and effort into their sport. But the athletes, sometimes they get away with some stuff because they are so physically gifted, right? And for us to build sustainable pieces in our life, we want to be able to find what works in a general setting, because that's only going to be amplified in the athletic setting, right? When someone has their shit literally, you know, fine tuned for them being an athlete and their whole entire life revolves around it, that's when stuff becomes fun and easy, right? And that's when you have these things that you learn from the GPP, you learn from the normal athlete or a normal person, that you can take and kind of use long term, right? I think I got a little bit off track there, but when we talk about the sustainability inside of that, it's literally just what can I repeat every single day, every single week, every single month. And sometimes, that might just be leaving things the same, right? And this is a conversation I had last week, is like, you see a lot of people, a lot of coaches, they try to just change for no reason, with no real like rhyme or reason as to the change. And sometimes people just need time to do things. They just need time to work on a movement pattern. They just need time to fully express something. And sometimes the basic, like, this is the thing, and talking about sustainability, the basics literally are always going to be there, right? And if you understand the basics, or you have someone who guides you, who understands the basics, you're going to see things time and time and time and time again. And there's not going to be a too much of a change. There's not going to be, what we might see is where the details come into real coaching, which is like, all right, week 1, we're going to do a bench press. Week 2, or 1 through 4, we're going to do a bench press, right? Week 4 through 8, we're going to do a bench press with a tempo. Week 8 through 12, we're going to do a bench press without the tempo, and we're going to do less reps. And then and it's the same movement, right? But you can really drive stimulus by keeping things simple. And what this allows the person to do is take everything else out of it, right? Take all the other things that come with that. Once they learn the movement pattern and they get it down, then we can start to actually have fun and fully express that movement, right? But this is where sustainability comes in, which is like, once we learn and we learn how to maximize movements, we maximize programs, and we learn that, things don't have to change for no reason. That's when we start to really see progress in people's fitness and people's health and people's performance. And that's where this stuff actually like truly comes down to to finding this inside of your life. Any feedback on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to the basics. I was just thinking, like, I started working with a client who has had personal trainers for the past, I don't know, like 6 months, like 2 different trainers. Um, and I just taught him how to hinge.
Mhm.
Like literally just taught him how to hinge. Like these trainers were so like focused on like probably just looking like they know what they're doing, that they didn't teach him such a simple movement. Um, Literally all of his weights are going up. Like he's jumping 20 pounds for dumbbells like in 2 weeks of working with me. And it's not because like, oh, I'm a magical trainer and I got the special touch and I know what I'm doing. Like just teach them how to move first. Like
Yeah.
don't chase, again, same thing with like the sustainability with the idea of getting results. Don't chase the goal. Like just enjoy the process, get there, like and get these little micro goals, and then you'll reach the end goal that you're trying to reach. Um
Yeah. And I
and
think
then on
like,
top of that, like I just want one more thing too is
yeah.
I've I witnessed a consultation recently that there's this stupid fucking software that you plug in at the gym that I'm working at, and like it's like, all right, like I want this, I want that, and it's all these different goals that you set for yourself, and then
Mhm.
it shows you this visual representation of what you will look like in 2 months, one month, 2 month, 3, 6, whatever,
So
and it's
Photoshop.
always like what?
Photoshop?
It's literally like it's a fucking AI generated, like it might as well be a fucking T pose. Fucking this is what you'll look oh, this is what you'll look like. And it's
Steve Cook.
um it'll say like yeah, it'll say you need to lose fucking 3.5 pounds to 4 pounds a week, and you'll get there in 3 months. And then they just look at you, they're like, how about that? That sound great? And it's like, that's not gonna fucking happen. Like,
That's not
no,
Kai
it's
Green. I want to look like Kai Green.
and it's always like if someone wants to lose weight, like they never keep their muscle mass. Like if they go from 200 pounds to like 150, they end up having fucking like the skinniest frame, and everyone's like, yeah, yeah, I guess that looks good. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
Well,
But
or go ahead.
no, I was gonna say it's the same idea. Like, while it's important for you to have the right mindset when reaching your goal, keep in mind that not all trainers will have the mindset that you have, and some are just trying to sell you. So if they're going to try and sell you these quick results super fast, saying, "Oh, don't worry, it won't take that much time." If your goal is going to take time, if your goal is big, it will take time. Like that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and I think the at the end of the day, the biggest thing we have to worry about or see what happened there.
Dude, this camera
There we
sucks.
go. At the end of the day, I can see this is what happens when you're filming literally across the world.
Yeah.
But you're in California, I'm in England. Anyways, I think even talking about my own experiences currently, right? Like as I train for this triathlon, there's so much new stimulus coming into me every single session, right? Whether it's the bike, the run, the swim, I'm intaking information on how to swim properly. I'm intaking information on biking for distance and running more. I went from running, you know, zero, if at all, maybe 3 miles a week to now I'm clocking almost 15 to 20 miles a week right now. And it's going to go up next week to more than like 15, or no, somewhere around 15 to 20 miles next week. Right. And for me, one of the ways that I've seen to kind of keep this sustainable over time is just keep what I like in the lifting. Keep it simple, keep it what I like, what I enjoy. So every time I just get in there and I can just hammer it out, right? Because what I don't want to do as I do this is lose, everything that I enjoy about it, right? I'm really doing the triathlon because it's hard and it's different and it's going to push me in a lot of ways. With the lifting, though, I just always enjoy lifting. I love the feeling of it. So I've changed I've had the same program for almost 8 weeks now. I've very slightly changed some things, like each month based on like progressing it. But for the most part, I've had the same movements on Tuesday, the same movements on Wednesday, the same movements on Thursday, the same movements on Friday, and I'm just slowly progressing them as we go. And I think that that's such an easy thing for me, and I've really seen the process fall through go through in a good way, right? And I've seen it kind of take shape through sustainable action, right? Not changing things every single day, giving myself time under this, right? And especially with the triathlon, this is, like I said, this is a whole new stimulus for me, right? I've never done anything like this before, anywhere close in my life. The closest thing I did was a Spartan race, right? And now I'm doing a half Ironman. So I've started slow. I've had to, what I mean? It's very easy for me to say, okay, I have to run 13 miles, 55-mile bike, and a mile swim, right? And me go, all right, I'm going to try to bike 55 miles and I'm going to try to run 13 miles. No, like that's how you get hurt. And that's how you stop your training very quickly. So I started at 2 minutes, or I started at 2 miles, right? And then I built, for example, on the run, I started at 2 mile sessions. So I did 2 miles on Monday, 2 miles on Wednesday, 2 miles on Saturday, right? Then I bumped it up after a month to 3 miles, 3 miles, 3 miles, and then another month, and I did 4 miles, 4 miles, 4 miles, so on and so forth. And that's how I'm going to progress this for a while. With the bike, I started at 20 minutes, then I built up to 30 minutes, then I built up to 60 minutes, then I built up to 90 minutes. Like I did my first 90-minute stationary bike, but I did a stationary bike on Saturday for 90 minutes and I hit almost 30 miles, right? And that's been the slow increase of 3 or 4 months now of slowly building into this thing, right? Or 3 months, because I still got 9 months left. But that's sustainability, right? It's starting slow, realizing the real things that you have to learn, because most of the time the output is not someone's problem, right? For example, in a squat, usually it's not about how strong someone is, it's really about their nervous system and being able to activate, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, fire
Recruit.
their nervous system at, a recruit. Yeah. Recruit their nervous system at a very high level. Right. And early in your lifting career, you just don't have that capability yet. So early on, you have to help yourself by tension, tempo, learning this stuff, building that muscular endurance, building that strength over time, building that time under tension. That's what then kind of reverse engineers these higher capacities to then lift weight or move faster or move at longer distances, right? This stuff takes time. And I think if I can give you anything, because we've already gone over the 30 minutes, if I can give you anything to take away, start slow, start with the real goals that are at hand, right? If you have, for example, a marathon, get better at understanding your pace, right? Understand where you need to be, where you want to be, where you're at right now, and slowly build up over that time. Give yourself a lot of time, right? If you are training for a sport, right? Figure out those main skills that you need to learn and say, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to be. What are the main things that are going to get in the way of me getting there? And those first, you say 20% of that training period should be getting these initial skills in, building the capacity, understanding where you're going to be at with training, and not doing too much, right? And even with nutrition, nutrition's another one where people, and this is where sustainability really comes in, because I think for the most part, if we're being 100% honest, people enjoy training who end up training. They enjoy the community, they enjoy the feeling. Nutrition is really where people start to fall off. And I think with nutrition, what it really comes down to is making the right things and the right decisions early on, right? Being aware of what you're actually eating, having the capacity to understand, like, when I do get put in front of these decisions, how do I make these decisions better, quicker, and more efficient, right? And early on, if you can, instead of just going cold turkey like most people do and saying, all right, I'm going to remove all sugars, I'm not going to drink. If I go out to eat, I'm only going to eat salad. It's like that lasts for 45 minutes until someone cuts you off on the highway, and then you're fucking like, fuck this, I'm going to McDonald's.
I'm gonna ruin my life.
And then, or yeah, something happens at work and you just kind of like fall off the rails and it's like, I'm going to eat a carton of ice cream tonight, right? That's not how you do it. Way you do it is small, sustainable changes. You take away slowly, take away slowly, take away slowly, add some good things in over time. That way you're actually building up to this stuff and learning and understanding. So that way, if there are any hiccups, we know where we went wrong, right? So that's my main takeaway. Jerry, if you want to add anything, do it.
Yeah, so I mean you pretty much hit every point, but as corny and as overused as the phrases like if it was easy, everyone would do it, or good things take time, as corny and overused as those are, it's true. And there's a reason that they're still people are still saying it today.
Yeah.
Um, and the don't rush the process, enjoy the journey. It if you do actually take your time, enjoy the process, the result is going to be that much more worth it. It's like when you go to dinner and you have a nice steak dinner out at a restaurant versus like you're in the backyard grilling and you take a bite into that steak, you're like, God damn, am I Gordon Ramsay? Like it's just, it hits different when you do it yourself. And it's the same thing with the fitness industry. If you take time, it's going to feel so good when you get there.
What about sloppy steak?
A sloppy steak, the water dumped all over it.
Slick back hair.
Slick. Oh yeah, it's slick back real nice.
It used to be a real piece of shit.
I said was. If you don't sloppy steaks at Travani's live for New Year's Eve. If you don't know what we're talking about, you need to watch I Think You Should Leave, especially if you're a guy with stupid humor. Watch I Think You Should Leave. Tim Robinson is a fucking comedic genius.
One of the best shows I've ever watched. Sloppy steaks. I actually saw a video on Instagram, I think yesterday, and there was a guy who was making steaks and pouring like seltzer water on it as like an actual thing.
Oh my
I don't
god.
know if he was
Was
like,
the comments just like filled with
I
gifs
didn't see
of
the
I Think You
comments.
Should Leave?
I sent it to somebody though. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the comments and see if they said like sloppy steaks. I
I'm
just sent
afraid
it
your
to him
baby thinks
once.
that people can't change.
So stupid. All right. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's a great episode again on sustainability. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Hit us up on Instagram. At Coach Jerry Hayes
Yes,
at
sir.
BG Perform underscore.
Don't you forget that underscore.
Don't you forget it, or else you're not going to be on my page.
You won't be. You'll be somewhere else with
Yeah.
weirdos.
I appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace. I gotta get better at this.